が消えかかるそれがオレンジャー熱い血流れる鋼の
Welcome to the Super Sentai Brothers. This is episode 26 of For Your Eyes Ohranger, the internet's best and only podcast dedicated to Chouriki Sentai Ohranger. Every week we watch an episode of the show and we share our thoughts with you, the listeners. My name is Matt J. With me as always is my co-host and brother Dave. Dave, how you doing today, bud?
A little warm, not gonna lie. It's finally summer. Yeah, it's finally summer, and it is warm today.
Yeah, we had one of those springs that didn't exist. So it's
we have one of those non-springs, you know.
It was just winter until it was summer, and now it is summer.
Yeah, no, it got hot enough. I actually set up. I don't have air conditioning in my house, but I do have a window unit that I set up just for my bedroom. Because, like, after a few years of not having air conditioning, I'm pretty acclimated. Like, I'm cool with that, except at night, and I can't sleep in the hot. Like, I just don't fall asleep. It's miserable. So I do have an air conditioner set up in my bedroom.
Yeah,
and I did set that up the other day.
I am lucky that my apartment is on the first floor, and so if I, like, open my window and toss a fan on, it's usually pretty good at night.
Oh, yeah. No, that makes a lot of sense.
But it was really nice. We were recording this on Memorial Day, which means I have the day off of work. I mean, we both do. Most people do, really.
Yes.
And if you don't, I'm very sorry. I have had to work these sort of holidays back when I had retail jobs, and it sucked a lot. So I slept with the window open last night, and I woke up, like a little later than I normally do, because there were like birds and stuff chirping outside, and I could hear it. And I was like, oh, how nice, how lovely. And then I had a much less pleasant sound, and I'm not exactly sure what the sound was because I didn't like get up and look out the window because I was still a little groggy. But I'm pretty sure that there was the sound of like a bird fighting a squirrel, and I don't know exactly how that went down.
Dude, birds get crazy when they fight. There were some like sparrows either fighting or mating outside my window this morning, and that was a weird, like, it was very intense, whichever version of that it was. I honestly don't know.
Yeah, we've got a blue jay that hangs out in my backyard, and I know that blue jays are very mean, so that's who I'm assuming was getting into trouble.
Yeah, probably.
Anyway, Dave, speaking of fights, we are watching a show full of them. We're watching episode number 26 of Chouriki Sentai Ohranger this week. It is called The 600 Million Year Old Boy Warrior. And if that title doesn't get you excited, then I don't know what you're doing here. But before we get into that, Dave, as always, shining in the heavens, there are 5 stars. Would you like to hear what the first star of the week is?
Yeah, sure would.
Okay. For months now, I'm going to call it, 6 months or something, I have been having trouble with my front door.
Dude, the degree to which I am willing to let things slide, just like really minor things, for months at a time, is embarrassing to me.
Okay, me too, but the excuse that I tell myself is that I'm a renter, and so I'm like, well, if something's actually broken about this, then I'm not going to buy myself like a new door handle and get new keys made for it. I'm going to, eventually get around to talk to my landlord about it, and I don't want to bug him because it's probably not a big deal. And so I would come home at night and just like have to wrestle, because what would happen is I could get my key in, but I couldn't get it out again.
Okay.
So I could like get the key in and unlock the door, and then like open the door to get inside, and then just stand inside with the door ajar, like wrestling with this key for like a few minutes. And it didn't happen every day, so I would forget about it, and then it would happen again, and I would be furious. And so I was talking to some people, just sort of like at work, I think, about how like, man, I think I'm gonna have to like fix this door. And then somebody just looked at me and was like, well, have you put any WD-40 in the lock? And I said,
okay, that's brilliant. And despite the fact that I use WD-40 for all sorts of stuff, I would not have thought about that.
No, I hadn't thought about it at all. I mean, I've got a can. So, like, that day, I went home, and I put, like, 2 squirts of WD-40 in the lock, and lo and behold, my door is perfect.
Dude, this is... First of all, WD-40 is a strange miracle. Did you know that it is not like Coca-Cola? The formula for WD-40 is not patented?
Really?
Yeah. for the same reason that like eventually a patent runs out and then you have to tell everybody what's in it. And then anybody could make WD-40.
Oh.
So the people who make WD-40, and I literally don't know if they make anything else, they just like, the formula is just very secret. And so like they don't ever have to tell you what it is because it's not technically patented.
Interesting. Yeah, it's one of those things that I feel a little badly when I fall back on the cliche of like, well, just use WD-40 and like super glue and duct tape and that'll kind of fix all the things that are broken. But in the course of,
people don't say it because it's false.
Right, like in the course of a week, I put WD-40 in my lock. I super glued the right side mirror back onto my car because like the reflective surface had just fallen off a long time ago. And it hadn't broken. It was just no longer connected. And so now that's working perfectly again. And I forgot, I used duct tape for something else recently. And I was like, man, I am like a walking like Tim the Toolman Taylor cliche right here, but boy, it is working.
But boy, like it just works. That's the thing.
Anyway, that's my first star. I'm just very excited about it. It makes coming home so much more pleasant. What is our second star of the week?
So, okay, weirdly, it is. It's actually also door related. I have this brief garage door update. Garage door update. I don't know if Mark's going to do a song for that. Anyways, so
well, hopefully it won't require that many more segments.
Yeah. So I finally got somebody to come out and look at my garage door, and the guy he comes out. He's like, "Hey, how's it going?" I'm like, "Cool. Here's the garage door." He's out there for like 5 minutes, and he comes back and he says, "Listen, man." He says, "Your garage door is so old. How old is it?" Anyway, he's like, "This garage door is original." What's up?
Probably about as old as the garage.
Yeah, it's like 100 years old. We're pretty sure it's original to the house, and the garage door is original to the garage. So it was built in like, we don't exactly know because there was a fire and City Hall lost a lot of records, but it's like close to 100 years old. And he's like, "Dude, I literally cannot fix this garage door because they don't make parts for it anymore. Like it's just like it's so antiquated that it cannot be repaired. It's just impossible." So I'm gonna have to get the garage door replaced, and the bummer about that, aside from the fact that it's expensive, is that it's like a really weird size. I guess garage doors are normally 7 feet or 8 feet tall, and this garage door is 6'8", and so you can't. Yeah, like for some reason, and so you can't order a standard garage door. Like he's got to order this specialty garage door. Like it has to be fabricated to meet this weird size.
That custom job.
Which is a pain, so it's extra expensive. So I was talking to my buddy Tim about this, and I was saying, it's kind of a pain because like I don't even really use the garage for anything. Like I just use it to store stuff. I don't park my car in there. Like I could, but I don't. And he said, "Well, if you don't park your car in there, why do you need to replace the garage door?" And I was like, "Well, because it's broken and I can't get into the garage." And he said, "Why don't you just knock a hole in the wall and like install a man door, like a side man door, and then you just recognize that like you don't have a garage anymore, you just have an outbuilding, but who cares because you didn't use it as a garage anyways." And I said, I just didn't, I never thought about that. Like, yeah, like garage door broken, fix garage door. So now I'm gonna call the garage door people back and be like, "Hey, I might actually need to cancel. Because, yeah, if I can avoid spending $1,300 on a garage door that I don't actually care about, rock and roll, man. Yeah. That's pretty excellent."
And then you can put in a man door, which I know is like I recognize the validity of that terminology, but it does make it sound like you are a bizarre alien.
Yeah. So that's my garage door update. One other thing. So because I can't get in my garage, I can't get my lawnmower, right?
Oh, yeah.
My front lawn is getting like embarrassingly long. And one of my students who lives like a block or two away and walks by my place on the way to school, he stops me in class and he says, "Hey, would you pay me to mow your lawn?" And I said, yes, absolutely. And so he came by and he mowed the lawn, and he did like a fantastic job. Like a really professional job. Like, he came back, he like swept up all the clippings. He was like pulling weeds out of the cracks in my sidewalk.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, like did a very, very thorough job, which is great. But as he was working, I'm watching him like pluck weeds out of the sidewalk, which like, who does that? And I call outside, I'm like, dude, why can you not be this assiduous about your schoolwork? Because he's like a really nice kid, but he just does like he just like doesn't turn stuff in and he forgets. So he just gives me this look of like defeat or resignation, but like about himself. And he says, I'm a very impatient person and schoolwork is very tedious. And I said, well, I can't
argue.
I mean,
with
I guess
that.
I can't argue with that. That's okay. That makes sense. But anyway, so that's my garage door update. What, Matt, is our third star of the week?
Third star of the week, Dave, is something I have gotten in the mail. I don't have much to say about it yet because I actually haven't watched it. But I got a movie mailed to me by listener to the show, Alex Diamond, who's the...
Oh, hey, Alex.
Yeah, the dude who I talked about earlier who came to visit. And when he had visited, we had talked about a movie called Blood Punch.
Okay.
And I know what you're thinking. You're thinking, Matt, what could this possibly have to do with Super Sentai? And the strange answer is that Blood Punch is written, directed by, and then starring people who are all involved in the season Power Rangers RPM.
Really?
Yeah. It's one of those things, like, the guy who wrote it he's like a big children's television writer, I think. And, like, the reason he wrote RPM is because RPM was, like, the last season of Power Rangers that was done by Disney before it reverted back to Saban.
Oh.
And so they were
Okay.
we are sort of on our end of things, on the Disney end of things, like, canceling this show like after this season, so kind of do whatever you want. And
nice.
And as a result, RPM is like a very weird season of Power Rangers. It's like kind of post-apocalyptic. I haven't watched it yet, but I hear that RPM is like a very, very good season. And like that dude and a couple of those actors, I don't know if it was before this or after this. I think the movie came after RPM, like got together and made this movie. And so apparently, like, the way that Alex got into watching Power Rangers is that he saw Blood Punch and then sort of worked backwards.
Huh. Okay.
And so I'm I'm kind of terrified of this movie, looking at the box, but I'm excited to see if it has a similar effect on me. So I will update you on that in the future. I just wanted to let you know where I am on my Blood Punch journey. And thank you, Alex, for sending that along.
I was going to say, yeah, I need to know what the conclusion of that journey looks like eventually. So let me know. What, Matt, is our fourth star of the week?
Fourth star of the week, Dave, is that I just got a new video game.
Cool.
And you know I like those video games.
Yeah, I know you love it. I've been kind of playing video games just a little bit here and there.
All right. Well, I mean, summer vacation's coming up for you. You'll have a little more free time.
Yeah, I've been playing that Hitman, which I know is not your kind of game. But anyway, sorry, so you got a new game.
I think that's also the same game that you were playing, like, did you just pick up where you left off? Is that the last game you played before you quit video games?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I was playing a lot of Hitman, and then I was like, I gotta quit video games, and then I quit video games, and then I was like, maybe I could play video games a little bit, and so I'm playing Hitman again.
Okay. Celeste is a game that may not be your cup of tea. It is a, like, sort of like an 8-bit 2D side-scroller. Platforming
I think
game.
that's cool.
But it's like a very sort of like, not quite twitchy, but like very demanding platforming puzzler game. This sort of game that like expects you to die a million times.
Ooh, okay. Well, that I kind of go back and forth and stuff like that, but if I know that that's the plan, I'm cooler with it.
Yeah, it's like you are not you have infinite lives and you are not really punished for dying. You just like get sent back to the beginning of the screen. It is so part of the game that like the music does not stop playing while the level reloads because it just knows this is going to happen a million times. We're not going to make you listen to like a 30-second loop as you just die over and over and over again. But like, listen, I know that you and I have not talked about this game, and you might not know about it. But this is like other people listening to the show probably know about this game. It was a very highly regarded game from last year, and I am sort of late to picking it up now. But it's very, very good. And it's good because I was sort of out of good Switch games to play. Because I can't let myself get back into Zelda again yet. I sort of need to let those fields lie fallow for a while before I can like jump back in. So I'm very excited to have a reason to be playing on the Switch again. Listeners, if you know other cool Switch games that I should be playing, let me know, because I feel like there are a ton out there and I don't know which ones I should be spending my time on. Anyway, that's it for that star, Dave.
So what, Matt, is our fifth star of the week?
Oh gosh, do I have the 5th star this week too?
Yeah, you do. Listen, man, I got twins. It's the end of the school year. I'm pretty fried. I'm just trying to stay conscious.
No, it's cool. Let me see. I got a new vacuum cleaner. Is that anything? Is that a star?
It is. Is it a special vacuum cleaner?
It's a new vacuum cleaner. What the one thing about this vacuum cleaner that
I don't, man, we can dig deep, but I don't think there's anything there, bud.
Okay, so here's what I got on it, is that the vacuum cleaner I had previously was Mom and Dad's Kirby vacuum cleaner, which I sold to them like 15, 20 years ago or something when I was selling, not 20, 15 years ago or so when I was selling Kirby vacuum cleaners door to door for a couple of weeks.
Yeah, for like the week that you did that?
2 weeks, thank you. I remember every moment of it. It was a very bad job. So I am now, since they're moving back to the States, they are taking ownership of their vacuum again.
Yeah, I've had it at my place for a couple of weeks, and I'm really bummed out that they're taking it back. It's so very good.
So since I knew it was going back and I had gotten out of the habit of using it, having now gotten this new one, especially because this new one is one of those deals like there isn't a bag, it just like goes into a plastic canister that you empty every time.
Yeah.
I get to actually see like, oh no, oh boy, there was a lot of dust in this place.
Yeah, there's a ton. Mm-hmm.
Like, I feel genuinely horrible about how little I had been vacuuming. So yeah, that's my star. Vacuum, everybody. Gets the dust out.
Life pro tips. Man, let's just talk about Super Sentai.
Speaking of dusty things, Dave, the 600 million-year-old boy warrior. Probably got some dust in 600 million years, right? Transitions.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Okay, let's go watch the show. We'll be right back. Okay, welcome back. So, we have just finished watching episode 26, the 600 million-year-old boy warrior. This episode rules.
Yeah, there's a lot going on in this episode.
Remember how last 2 weeks we were talking about how, like, man, they're just doing like some weird goofy monster of the week stuff because we got like a real tone shift coming up now. And it's not like a tone shift into being super raw. It's just a tone shift into being like super, how to put it? It's like the show remembered that it's a show and not a series of episodes, and then it needs to get back to the plot.
Yeah, no, that's a very good. Yeah, like we're finally sort of getting into gear on the year-long plot line, because literally up until now, all we know is there's the Paranoia Empire. They're bad. They want to destroy Earth, and the Ohrangers are stopping them. And we're like 26 episodes in, and that's it. Like, that's all we've known.
Yeah.
So now finally we are delving a little bit deeper into like the history and like what's going on. So that's very cool. We do get a preview of before the credits start or before the opening theme starts. We do get a preview, and then the part of the preview is literally the very first scene of the episode. So you see like a 5-second clip, and then you see the opener, and then you see that exact same 5-second clip, and then it just continues on with the episode, which it's like, why bother at that point?
Well, listen, Dave, I feel like you're just never going to be happy with these 5-second clips, because either they're from late in the episode and they give something away, or they're from earlier in the episode and you're upset that you have to watch it twice.
Okay, listen, I'm going to stop talking about it, I guess, eventually, because you're right. Like, there's no version of it that's good, because it's a dumb concept, because I'm already sitting down to watch the episode.
Dave,
like, I'm already here, guys.
But you got the DVDs. If you were switching through the channels, you would not necessarily continue watching it. You need to know which episode is coming up. Maybe it's a rerun. I don't know. I don't know if they
Okay,
do
anyways,
these in reruns.
So the opening, it opens up, and it is like a weird-shaped space. It's a pyramid, but it's like flying... It's flying forward, like...
The tip of the pyramid is pointing forward.
Yeah, which I guess if you were making a pyramid-shaped spaceship is how you would do it. I don't know. It's kind of...
I
just like didn't expect it. It's just very weird to me because what it actually looks like is just a pyramid that's kind of on its side.
It's kind of difficult because as we're going to continue to watch this episode, later, once this thing lands, it sort of is in the orientation of a standard pyramid with like the big flat side on the bottom. I mean, I guess all the sides are flat, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, sorry for that. Whoa, Matt. So I'm the room in my house that I'm recording in, I'm facing a window, and there is like a sparrow's nest, what I assume is like directly above this window. And so there was just this bird flying very quickly, what looked to be like right at my face, and then it veered off at the last second to get up to its nest. It was disconcerting. Anyways, yeah, so there's this spaceship, and it is traveling through like a dimensional vortex, basically. It's just sort of like weird swirly colors in the background. So then we go inside the spaceship, and there's a spaceship, and there's like two stasis pods, I guess.
Mm-hmm. Well,
and there's two kids in there.
Yeah, there's an awful puppet sort of running around the ship.
Yeah, it's a lizard puppet, and its name is Paku. Yeah.
It's when I say that it's an awful puppet, I don't mean that like it's an awful looking creature. I mean that the actual puppet like design is awful because there's like sort of no articulation, and it never looks like anything other than just like a stuffed animal
that is being sort of put. Yeah, I'm really concerned that Paku is going to become like a fixture on the show, and that's going to really bum me out. So anyway, so there's like an older boy who's probably, I don't know, how would 14, somewhere in that realm.
Yeah, I'm guessing he's sort of in that 14 and a half zone.
Yeah, and then there's a younger girl who's probably like
12-ish?
I don't know, 10, between like 10 and 12, somewhere in that range. And there's like the ship is going off, and the lizard is just hanging out. And he's like piloting the ship somehow. He's like doing something, and there's like lights and soundboards, not soundboard, like keyboards and all this stuff. And then there's like a glowy thing that sort of looks like the atomic symbol. You know what I mean? It's like a series of interlocking rings, and I'm fairly certain they used that prop in Jetman.
I am almost sure that it did.
Yeah, like that thing looked super familiar. So, and they're just like in the. They're just like in the dimensional vortex. It's kind of all we know about them so far.
Yeah, we hear sort of a, like the ship's computer is talking like we're approaching the dimensional portal, like prepare for re-entry.
Yeah, so we don't know, but again, that's all we know. So we go from there to the base. We go from there to the base, and we see the chief. And he's kind of like looking around, and he looks out at the pyramid. Because remember, their base has it has a surface entrance, but it's really mostly underground. Like once you get underground, it is gigantic.
Yeah, and there is
like their base is huge. It is large enough that they have either the originals or scale replicas of multiple major like world monuments. Just like
I assume those have to be scale models, right?
Man, that is never made clear. I don't actually think that they are.
Because I mean,
I think that they're meant to be full
size.
They
just like took the Sphinx and moved it down there.
I think that is what is meant to have happened. Like they've got the Sphinx and the Parthenon and one of the Great Pyramids of Giza and like some other stuff. The only one I don't think is supposed to be a scale model is the Moa statue, because those are pretty small, and this is like clearly like a giant version. But I feel like they're supposed to be just really, really large.
Hey, maybe, man.
So anyways, which I love. First of all, I just love the concept that the chief has created this just enormously huge cavern in which to store like these ancient world artifacts for the purposes of creating his like super powered Chouriki powered energy super team. I'm just into this concept. So anyways, so he's looking at the pyramid, right? Yeah, he's looking at the pyramid, and he seems concerned about something. He's not really clear what.
Well, maybe what he is concerned about, Dave, is that the pyramid begins to glow, and it shows over it what he calls is the Ricky's mark, or the mark of Ricky. What I believe I have heard that this is actually the kanji for king.
Oh, okay.
So that is something to keep in mind as we move forward. I believe that's the case.
Sense.
So he looks up, he's like, oh my gosh, it's Ricky's mark. We cut over to Momo, who is like manning the computers right now. And she says like, oh boy, a spaceship is coming. So that's probably the Machine Empire. We should definitely like scramble all fighters to try to go fight this thing.
Yeah. So then from there we flip over to a scene of the city, and it's like the pyramid is landing. And it just sort of lands in the middle of the city.
Yeah, instead of a courtyard.
Yeah, and nobody flips out about that.
Here's my question. Is this courtyard something that already has a pyramid statue in it in real life?
I think it must.
Like, is this like a location that they found and they were like, oh, like there's a pyramid, like a big glass pyramid here in this courtyard. We'll use this as the shooting location anytime we need to show people going in or out of the spaceship pyramid. Like, we'll just say that it landed here and move on from there. I don't know if that's the case, but it would be super convenient.
I would fully believe that this location existed. One of the writers saw it and was like, oh, that would be a cool spaceship. And then literally the entire rest of this season was built backwards from that. Like, why would there be a pyramid spaceship? Well, blah, 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 blah. Like, one time, this is not a joke. Like, when I ran Plot for LARP, I think I've told you this story. I saw, like, an iridescent green fabric, and I thought to myself, like, at Joanne Fabrics, and I thought to myself, oh, that would look cool as the covering for, like, a weapon that was, like, made out of crystal. Well, why would you have a weapon that's made out of crystal? Well, it would be like wood and crystal. Why would that be? And then from there, it spawned because I wanted to build this weapon, it spawned an entire like 3-year plot line and added like multiple significant in-game locations to the world of LARP in which I play. So yeah, I believe that this pyramid already exists. In fact, now that we've talked about it, I really hope that that is the case. That would be a lot more fun. So,
okay, yeah,
but again,
so
nobody flips out about this.
Yes, okay, this ship is landed.
Yeah, nobody flips out about the arrival of this pyramid, which, like, in world is, like, you know, theoretically just arrived. So there is some kind of, like, it shoots some energy into the sky. We don't really know why. Both of the kids wake up. And this is where we find out that the boy, the 14-year-old, that's Ricky.
Yeah.
Ricky. That's Ricky. And the girl, her name is Doran.
Okay, so this is going to get sort of a little...
It's not super clear, actually.
It's going to get a little bit confusing. And actually, let's just go into the next scene, and then we'll talk about why it's confusing.
It makes a ton more sense.
So we cut back to the headquarters, and Chief starts laying out all of this history that you have to wonder why he's never mentioned to the Ohrangers before.
Yeah.
So he says, listen, in, like, prehistoric days, like, the pre-ancient society existed, right? And they had this hero that was called Ricky. And he pulls up this, like, it looks sort of like Egyptian art. And it's a picture of, like, Ricky and Dorian. And also Paku is, like, sort of down there in this picture, which I did not notice initially. I actually watched this episode twice, so I picked up... That's what you get for watching the episode twice. A brief commentary on one small picture of a bad puppet. So he's like, these people existed. Ricky, I think, was a human, and the Dorans were not human, but they looked like humans, and they were revered by humans as, like, they thought that they were messengers from the gods. So the girl is being called Doran, but that's also the name of her race. So they're probably going to
Which
get
is-
used interchangeably and in a confusing way. So just prepare yourself for that.
Great job, Ohranger. So here's the deal. It turns out that this ancient pre-civilization that existed 600 million years ago created the machine beasts.
Yeah.
That's where they're from. Like, we built them, and then they rebelled against us, Rossum's Universal Robot style, and then there was like a giant war between the ancient humans and the machine beasts. We won, and like, Bacchus Wrath, it turns out, is the only survivor.
Yeah, on that side. And
And
he fled Earth. And the humans and the Doran were like, okay, well, we won and that's great, but like Bacchus Wrath is effectively immortal, which means that Bacchus Wrath is 600 million years old. It has apparently just been like going ham the entire time. So
yeah,
like they calculated that it would take him 600 million years to like go somewhere else and build an empire and come back to Earth and try to take it over. So they sent Ricky and Doran, who is one of the last of the Doran race, into this sort of like time stasis extra dimensional space. And like then they were going to come back 600 million years later to help fight Bacchus Wrath again.
Yeah. So I need to know what is up with this lizard.
Yeah, because the lizard is also 600 million years old.
The lizard is also 600 million years old, but he wasn't in a stasis chamber. Like, Ricky and Doran are in a stasis chamber. The lizard is just chilling. So, is it the same lizard from 600 million years ago, and it just lives that long? Is there like 600 million years of generation of lizard? Because that doesn't make sense. Was the lizard in like a tiny stasis pod and it got woken up first? Like, I'm deeply bothered by the existence of this stupid lizard.
Man, I tell you, this stuff, like, oh my gosh, like, the machine beasts are actually, like, created by the humans 600 million years ago, and now we got a dude coming from a time dimension, and there's an extra race that, like, used to be worshipped as messengers from the gods. Like, that is the stuff that this... I did not realize that is what this show has been missing, but that's that, like beautiful Super Sentai nonsense that like I've kind of been longing for in Ohranger.
Yeah, it was sort of weird. Like I didn't know it wasn't there till I noticed it was like I didn't notice it was gone till it was back, and then I was like, oh right, that's what we've been missing. Like that's the flavor. That's the special seasoning that we needed in this season. So we go back to the chief, and he's like, listen, the first priority needs to be that we gotta find this thing. Like, we just gotta figure out what's going on. We don't know where this pyramid landed. Like, it's clearly, like, something is really significant. We gotta go find this thing. So we go back to the pyramid, and it shoots, like, it puts out, like, some sort of sensor out of the top of it. And Ricky and Doran are looking at these computer monitors, and they're sort of observing the outside world. And Ricky is kind of blown away, I think, by the I'm not really sure what he's blown away by, to be honest with you. Because he's from a society that was sufficiently advanced to create A, like an interdimensional spaceship, and B, sentient robots. So he's looking around at the skyscrapers of Tokyo and being like, what?
I don't know, maybe they didn't have much use for, like, large architecture because they didn't have as many people back in the day. Like, maybe it's just that sort of thing. Because what's weird is, if you think about this show from Ricky's perspective, it's like a weird post-apocalyptic thing, right? Like,
oh, good point.
Like they built machine servants. Those machine servants rose up. They basically had, like, a Terminator war. They finally won, but, like, they knew that one had gotten away. So he gets sent, like, forward. He gets sent through time, shows up later, and is like, oh, 600 million years in the future, like, this is what Earth is, and also our old enemies are back. Like, from his perspective, this show is completely different.
Yeah.
And it does not help that the spaceship is landed right next to, like, the, like, carnival theme park thing that's in Tokyo. So he jumps out of the pyramid, and he's like, Oh, first of Doran gives him a staff, like summons up some energy and gives him like a staff scepter weapon thing.
Oh, yeah, it is this sort of... It's very toyetic. It looks like it would be a very neat toy. It's like, it's got his symbol at the top, and there's like a handle and some sort of a spiky thing at the bottom.
Yeah. I mean, listen, if you have seen Power Rangers Zeo, this is the Gold Ranger from Zeo. I don't know if that's, that is where this is going.
Oh, okay, cool. I didn't know what color Ranger he was going to... I mean, obviously he's going to be a Ranger. I just didn't know what color he was going to be.
He's called the Gold Ranger in Zeo. He's actually more of like a Black Ranger with gold highlights, but like they call him a Gold Ranger for some reason.
Yeah, sure.
Anyways,
so Ricky just sort of like runs out into the world and...
just starts running. I don't know what his plan is.
He doesn't seem to have any motivation. I think his thought is like, well, here I am, and I know the machine beasts are here, so like, let's just get rolling. Because he just jumps out and seemingly is just kind of randomly running around Tokyo, hoping to run into a machine beast. This does work out for him, sort of.
Yeah, it's very strange.
I had to stop. I had Sugar Bean sitting on my lap, and this was like weird enough that I stopped watching because she started like whimpering because it was so strange and creepy. So, and then I felt very, very bad. So,
and it's very weird because it's sort of out of nowhere. Because what happens is, and
it has no reference before or after this. It is in no way connected to literally anything else that has happened in this show or episode before or since.
Yeah. So as I said, Ricky is running through this sort of like carnival, and he has 3 dudes who kind of look like the Joker, like the Jack Nicholson version of the Joker in a big trench coat and fedora.
That is precisely what it is. Yes.
One of them floats down upside down while holding onto a rope, and then sort of like swivels right ways. And then the other 2 sort of like float in, but like, and then they all sort of float up in the air and go sideways and are spinning around and like making weird faces at Ricky. It's extremely disconcerting, but not as disconcerting as what happens next.
So, man, I'm not even sure quite how to say this.
So, like I said, they're all wearing big trench coats, right?
Yeah, and then they just sort of float, and then they're sort of floating up and down, and what it looks like is that they are in their wire harnesses, but like they just kind of can't keep their balance, and they're just sort of gently swaying and like rotating back and forth, and then they land. And they do a little robot dance, and then they make faces that I can only describe as expressing existential horror.
Mm-hmm.
And then their heads sink down into their trench coats.
Yeah, as though like the trench coat is a solid thing that exists apart from them, and they are like sinking or melting underneath it.
And then they are just paranoia soldiers.
Yeah.
And then they fight.
That's the thing. Then they're just regular old paranoia soldiers. Like, there's nothing special about these 3 except that they show up as these incredibly creepy, like, Jack Nicholson Jokers.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool, I guess, and it definitely serves to, like, put Ricky on edge in this like bizarre new future he's arrived in. I just don't know why any of it's happening.
Yeah, it's very, very strange.
But then they just have a fight. They just have a regular old paranoia soldier fight.
And then they just fight. So...
And Ricky wins. These are not, like, stronger than normal paranoia soldiers.
Yeah, like, I cannot stress to you how normal they are. Like, they just get beat. And then that's the end of that scene.
Oh, well, when he defeats them, one of them explodes, and he sees that it's full of, like, cogs and gears and so forth. And he realizes, like, oh, this is a machine thing. Like, I'm on the right track here.
Yeah. So we go from there to the moon, and it is like a big nature preserve, and we find out that it is the Baranoia Royal Zoological and Botanical Society. Which, why is that a thing? I'd be very curious to know.
Well, apparently it is a thing, Dave, because there is a member of the Machine Empire. It's the Baranoia Empire. It's called the Machine Empire in Zeo, and I keep slipping back and forth.
Hey, that's.
It is a Machine Empire. Anyway, so
Right.
there is a member of the Baranoia Empire who is named Karis, and Karis is like a zookeeper, animal trainer, whip cracker,
and appears to be fully human.
Yeah, I don't know if that's actually going to end up being the case, or if this is just like a human form that this robot has.
It could be, but like everybody else just hangs out in their robot form in the Baranoia Empire. So like, I don't know what's going on. I think she's human.
I'm excited to find out.
I don't know. So anyways, Emperor Bacchus Wrath he's furious. He's looking around for the zookeeper, and he finds her. Oh, she is like trying to chill out some animals, like not animals, like more animalistic machine beasts. And then Bacchus Wrath finds her, and he says, Karis, your time has finally come, or your time has come at last. We don't know what that means, of course. I mean, I know what the concept means. Like, I'm familiar with how those words are put together, but like, I don't have any context for him saying that.
I think what it means is because he knows that Ricky is back, right?
Yes, yeah, he is aware of this.
So I think that Karis and her like zoo full of like machine beast monster animals is like his secret weapon that he has been sitting on this whole time. And he's like, okay, now that Ricky is here,
maybe.
Now that Ricky is here, it's finally your time to shine. Go down to Earth and show him how it's done. Which leads me to wonder if you already had all of these like unbeatable like animal monsters, why have you been losing for 25 weeks?
Yeah, dude, man, who knows? That's always the case. Like, maybe he's just concerned about they're too powerful. He's concerned about letting them out. So, like, he didn't want to use them unless he really had to, or, I don't know. So anyways, he says, like, your time now is the time. So we go from there, we're back to Earth, and the Rangers are on motorcycles, doing some very cool precision driving, and then they show up at what is the last known location of this strange pyramid. So there's two weird things. A, it's morning, so like, why did y'all wait? And B, when I started talking about it, I was sure I had a B, but now I don't know what it was. But it is weird. Like, they just waited till morning, and then they showed up, and the pyramid is gone. We think it's not actually gone. It's like right there. Yeah. So they are the strange pyramid. It turns out it's really small. Like, it's a lot smaller than I feel like we were sort of led to believe earlier. And it's literally like 20 feet away from them. And they see the little girl running away.
Oh, because Paku has run away.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
Paku got out of the pyramid and just like scampered off. Paku, who was apparently like 600 million years old and smart enough to like at least reactivate, like, at least do some low level like computer technician stuff to like activate re-entry, is now just a dumb animal who has like scampered away and they can't find him.
Yeah.
So Doran runs after Paku, and who is it? We've got Yuji, Juri, and Momo go running after her.
Yes.
Elsewhere, Goro and Shohei are driving around, and they are trying to find Ricky.
Yeah, they're trying to find Ricky. It is raining, and I always get a kick out of it when they have to. I don't know. I feel bad when they have to shoot in bad weather conditions. It's like, well, it's raining, but we do still need to shoot this episode this week. So just y'all get out there. So they see Ricky, and like they're chasing, like they see him, and they're like, oh, there he is. Like, let's go kind of get him. He does manage to elude them. Sort of. He just actually circles back around for a sneak attack.
Yes, because he doesn't know who these people are. He just knows that he's being chased. So he does like a jump kick and he's attacking them for a second. Goro manages to like get him in a hold and it's like, dude, we are not here to fight you. We are on your side. Everything's cool. And then to sort of punctuate this, which I think is nice that they didn't drag that out, immediately they are attacked by Baranoia soldiers.
Yeah. Which is really great because it just provides a little shorthand, like, oh yeah, they're attacking you, they're attacking us, like we are attacking them all together. Great. They henshin. Ricky is super impressed by their ability to use Chouriki energy. He's like, oh, okay. Like, if I wasn't sure about you guys before, like, the vibe I get is, if we weren't sure about you guys before, you're definitely cool now. Like, anybody who can use the Force is cool by me.
Yeah.
I think is his idea.
They are fighting on a ship, right? On the deck of a ship. And one of the Baranoia soldiers gets thrown overboard into the water, which would be bad for a robot, but would be especially bad for a dude in a Baranoia soldier costume.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's not a very special episode, so I'm going to assume that guy was fine. So Emperor Bacchus Wrath arrives, and he's like, Ricky, after 600 million years, I'll have my revenge. And he attacks him. He attacks them, and they sort of blast him back. It turns out he's just a hologram. And so that doesn't really go anywhere. So we go from there back to Doran, and the Rangers have caught up with her, but they hide for reasons I don't really understand. And the girl, Doran, is trying to find Paku the lizard, who is like swimming around in this gross little pond.
Yeah, it's very grody.
Yeah. So she calls Paku over, and then when Paku arrives, she is attacked by the Barra soldiers, but the Rangers are there. Like, hooray. That's cool.
So the Rangers have arrived, but unfortunately, Karis is also here. And this is how you know that Karis is an important character. When she teleports in, she gets like a cool, unique teleportation effect. Like, she doesn't just like zap in like everybody else does or can. Or just like arrive from behind a tree. There are some like sort of energy butterflies that flit around. And then like there's sort of like a crack in space that widens out. And she is standing like behind that crack in this sort of like glowing orange rainbow like background thing. It is very cool.
So she arrives, and she's got this sort of, like, cool energy whip, and she says to Doran, like, no, it's my turn, Doran, or something, like... So clearly, like, whatever's going on, Karis has some sort of very serious beef with this little child.
Yeah.
And then,
So she cracks the whip, and then, like, as she cracks the whip, a bunch of Barra soldiers come out, and they start to have a fight. This whip, as it turns out, is also, like, a laser whip that she's using to attack the Rangers, which is a very
Maria
good
style.
look.
It's very cool.
And in general, like when the Rangers first showed up, it seemed like, oh yeah, they're here to save the day. Everything's going to be cool. And then Karis showed up, and everything is not cool, and the day is not being saved, and the Rangers are getting their butts handed to them.
Yeah, no, it's very, very bad. So then what we see is we flip back to Ricky, who somehow like gets a vision. I looked away for a second. I wasn't sure how he got this, but he knows somehow that Doran is in trouble.
Oh, it's if you had looked away, it's actually sort of a cool effect. When Doran is hit by the laser whip, the camera shot of that sort of like pans out, and you see it like inside of Ricky's eye. So like you can see him seeing what happened, and then it pans out further to where Ricky is, and he's like, Doran's in trouble, I have to go, and he just starts running.
Yeah, so he just books it, which is rad. So Karis, like, cracks her whip, and she summons her pet of the week, is what I assume this is going to turn into, which is Bara Goblin. And Bara Goblin has sort of an indistinct look. Like, he's got some horns, and he's got, like, big, long arms, and...
His face is articulated in such a way that, like, it's got a big jaw that opens and closes, which is cool.
Yeah. Which is cool. Like, it is. It's very neat. But there's not a lot of, like... There's not, like, a single design element that you can look at and be like, oh, this is what Bara Goblin looks like. Just, if you're really curious, just look it up.
Yeah, he just looks like generally menacing.
Yeah. So we go from there, and they are like they're trying to attack him, and none of their stuff is working. Like they pull out their special weapons and they drop some special attacks. None of them have any effect on Bara Goblin. They pull out the King Smasher. Even King Smasher is not strong enough to hurt Bara Goblin. Like Bara Goblin is tough. Like he is not messing around, which is cool.
Yeah. We're cutting back and forth here between this fight and then Ricky, Goro, and Shohei, who are just running to try to get to where the other Rangers and Doran are. Now,
yeah,
I don't know why they're running, because like Goro and Shohei arrived to that spot on their motorcycles.
Yeah, it's
whatever. It's fine. It's dramatic.
Yeah,
is what it is.
I was gonna say, dude. Yeah, exactly. Thank you, Matt.
As they are running, they're being attacked by the like octopus spaceships that are like zapping them. So like they're trying to avoid explosions as they're running. They're trying to get there in time. Doran is calling for Ricky. Ricky is calling for Doran. There's a lot of explosions and bad things happening.
Yeah. We flip very quickly up to the moon where we get Bacchus Wrath dropping some exposition, which we actually mentioned earlier, where he's like, oh, I'm the only survivor of this war, and I went to Baranoia, and I created all the rest of the Machine Empire, and now like I'm back to destroy Earth, blah, blah, blah. So this is when we actually get the information in the episode.
Yeah.
And then there's like this cool like video recorder bird robot thing that was watching all of this happen, and then we see it flying to Earth.
Yeah, which I'm pretty sure is like something I saw in an old Transformers cartoon.
I was trying to think of where that was as well, because it definitely seemed familiar, but
like one of what was the like the bird that was one of the tapes that Soundwave had.
I don't remember their names, but yeah.
Not Soundwave. I'm sorry. No, but yeah. Nah, never mind. It turns out I don't remember as much of Transformers as I thought. The one that turns into a boombox. He has a tape. One of them is a panther, one of them is a bird, and I'm pretty sure that in the like original animated Transformers movie, basically this happens. It's fine. I've gone way too deep on this totally irrelevant tangent.
Okay, so anyway, so it's flying back to Earth. We're not really sure what's going on with it or what, but it's flying back to Earth for sure. That's definitely happening. So we go from there. We see Ricky and Goro and Shohei, and they are kind of running along this cliffside, and it looks like they just straight dive off over the side of the cliff. Then the camera angle changes, and it turns out it's just a very steep hill, but it still seems like a very dangerous stunt, because they're sort of like jump rolling down this hill. It would make me nervous, all right.
Oh, yeah. It definitely does not look like a safe thing. What's weird is that, like, Goro and Shohei are, you know, they've henshin, so they're in their costumes. So those can just be anybody in those suits doing that stunt. But, I mean, I guess it's sort of a far shot, so it's not necessarily the actor who plays Ricky. But that is just, like, you know, he's untransformed. And so we're seeing this, like, 14-year-old kid just throw himself down a cliff.
Yeah, it's pretty intense. So, so then we see it's Momo and Juri and Yuji, and they are at the cliff edge, and Bara Goblin is advancing on them, and
that's kind of where it ends, right?
Yeah, that's kind of it.
Karis tells Doran that she's going to die there.
Yeah.
And then it is a to be continued. This is a cliffhanger. We will pick up with this next week. But yeah, this is exciting stuff. I'm really happy that we are sort of moving into this stage of the show. The way that we do this podcast, where we do a new season every year, and they're all, you know, due to the nature of Super Sentai, all unrelated, is kind of tricky, right? Because we get into these grooves where we have like, we know the characters, we have in-jokes and stuff, and then the entire show resets and we need to like recalibrate entirely. And that is the difficult part of doing the show this way. The great part about doing it this way is that every year we are guaranteed that like the show is going to be a show with a plot. It's not just going to sort of like meander through like 2 years of Monsters of the Week, you know? And this is really refreshing because we get to move into that. Yeah, that's the end of this episode, David. It's not the end of our episode. Actually, you know what? It is, because they haven't...
I mean, no, it kind of is. We don't really have a monster to put into the Creature Royale this week, just because...
Yeah, like, Barragoblin will go in there probably next week, but he cannot go in this week because we have not really seen him really fully in action yet. I don't know. Anything else you want to talk about before we close out, then?
No, man. I just, I'm really excited to see kind of where the show is going from here, but as far as this episode goes, I think that's it.
Yeah, I think next week's episode is called The King's Gallant Debut, so get hype about that. But for now, that is going to do it for another episode of For Your Eyes, Ohranger. Before we finish up here, I'd like to remind you all that you can email the show at supersentaibrothers@gmail.com. If you want to get any updates on future episodes or check out the things that we're talking about on Twitter, we are at Super Sentai Bros. If you like the show, and I hope that you do, please remember that shining in the iTunes review section, there are 5 stars. Please rate, review, subscribe on Apple Podcasts or wherever it is that you find the show. Super Sentai Brothers are a production of Retrograde Orbit Radio. To find any of the other great Retrograde Orbit Radio shows, you can do that all at retrogradeorbitradio.com. Once again, we are the Super Sentai Brothers. I'm Matt.
I'm Dave.
And we'll see you next week for the greatest show on Earth.